Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the basic elements of the Grand Archive TCG. This is step one of how you want to build your deck. We're going to talk about wind, water, and fire, kind of give you the archetypes of each basic element so you can have a better understanding of which direction you want to take your chosen champion. If you want to play Lorraine, for example, do you want to play a more aggressive fire Lorraine, or do you want to play a more controlling water version, maybe a more toolboxy wind version, so on and so forth. Like we talked about in one of the previous videos, your basic element will dictate the type of style that your champion is going to be playing in terms of speed, pace, and what you want to do. So hopefully this will be helpful, kind of give you a quick 10-15 minute snapshot of all three elements so you can make the best decision for you, and we'll go from there. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. Hopefully enjoy your stay. If you're a long-standing supporter, thank you so much as always. Feel free to check out everything down below, the creator worksheet, the Discord, as well as the channel membership. For all my new Grand Archive people that are coming and seeing my channel for the first time, a special welcome from y'all. Please feel free to leave comments down below on anything I may have missed, anything I may have misconstrued from each element. I am simply one opinion, but hopefully I can help you out. So one thing I wanted to point out here before we go into like the slides is again, pointing out TCG Architect. They're doing a great job. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I just think this website's really cool. They just made it. You can go in there and you can go to their database tab and search all of the cards by fire, wind, water. You can go into the advanced elements and get an idea of all of the cards that are part of the game. So definitely, please go check them out. I'll put that down below. But the first one we're going to start with is wind. I wanted to start with wind because wind is my favorite basic element. Wind is kind of the middle ground of fire and water in terms of its applicability. And at the most highest level, wind I like to call is the toolbox element. Wind kind of has a little bit of everything. It's not as controlling as water, where it wants, like water wants to kind of stop what the opponent's doing, like completely halt what they're doing. Whereas fire is like, I don't care what you're doing, I'm just going to try to kill you. Wind is kind of in the middle, right? Wind's not going to outright stop what the opponent's doing. They're like the wind. They're going to kind of bend and move around what they're doing. They have a lot of suppression effects, pun intended for you Grand Archive players. They have a lot of prevention effects, being able to prevent stuff, be able to slow the opponent down, not so much stop what they're doing. So really good examples of this are these first three cards. You have Disorienting Winds, Zephyr, and Tempest Downfall. Disorienting Winds allows you to return target ally to an owner's hand as well as draw a card, and it costs less for each level you are. There's other better versions of this card. This is one I just picked out. Zephyr is a very, very common win card. It suppresses target ally or regalia, which means you suppress the object, which you banish it from the field. It comes back next turn. You can use this in a defensive manner to be able to banish certain effects from what the opponent's trying to do. You can also use this as an offensive way to be able to banish cards that you have that have good on enter effects, and then they come back into play the next turn with the on enter effect hitting again. So again, a toolbox like deck. Then you have cards like Tempest Downfall, which says this card costs 3 less to activate if an ally has been suppressed this turn, so it partners well with Zephyr. And it says deal 3 damage to target unit. If that unit is an ally that entered the field this turn, deal an additional 3 damage to it. So it's able to, again, slow down what your opponent's doing. Not so much stop them, but really slow them down. When I talked about prevention effects and also slowing your opponent down, here's another couple set of examples. You have cards like Veiling Breeze, which is a really good anti-aggro card that says reveal any amount of wind element cards from your memory until the end of turn. Whenever damage will be dealt to your champion, prevent that amount of damage equal to the amount of cards revealed this way. So at the most basic level, if you pay 1 for it at fast speed, putting a wind card down and revealing it, it'll prevent 1 instance of damage every time you take damage that turn. So again, not stopping what your opponent's doing, but really slowing them down. You have stuff like Noble Dissolution and Ensnaring Fumes, which are good target removals. Noble Dissolution works against fractals. Ensnaring Fumes works against your opponent's super powerful card in Wind. You may remove 3 preparation counters from your champion rather than pay its cost, or pay 5 for it, and you return all allies to their opponent's hands, which really can hurt an opponent who is trying to build a really big board, so on and so forth. So as you can see with like some of these initial cards, it's not so much like target spot removal, right? I'm not trying to like completely just lock you out of the game. What I'm trying to do is take what you're giving me, so to speak, and then be able to kind of bend around it, whether it's through prevention effects, whether it's through bouncing stuff back to your hand, whether it's just removing it from the game for a short amount of time. Wind is able to kind of toolbox these cards in order to slow the opponent down. On the other hand, with these toolbox cards, it's also able to help you out, right? Ensnaring Fumes can help bring cards back to your hand to be able to play on enter effects. Like I said with Zephyr, you're able to do the same thing. For example, people will Zephyr things like Ace Protector to be able to, you play Ace Protector, you bounce a card back to your hand. You play Zephyr, bouncing the Ace Protector. Ace Protector comes back in. Its on enter effect will trigger again, so on and so forth. So you're able to kind of use these cards both offensively and defensively, which is something that Wind does a little bit better than the other two elements. You also have really good allies in Wind. Wind is very much known as the ally. I think it's known as the ally element. You have cards like Ace Protector, really big body. Rose, the Eternal Paragon's a big one, which she can, on enter, you may change the target attack to Rose. If you do, Rose gets +1 defense. And then you have like Brisk Wind Trotter, which can put buff counters on your other cards. When it comes to allies in Wind, if you're wanting to play like, a creature style deck, Wind is kind of in the middle in terms of like their stats. Water will be very defensive stat oriented, whereas Fire is very offensive stat oriented. Wind's kind of in the middle, and what you do with Wind is you use synergies, whether it's through buff counters, through certain tribal elements like Pride and stuff, to be able to get a little bit more incremental defensive value. I'd say like the base stats for Wind are kind of like mid-range, even though mid-range is kind of a crappy term. And then it will lean defensively as you add some synergies with it, if hopefully that makes sense. So if you like toolboxy type decks, if you like the ability to utilize your cards best on offense and defense, and also be able to utilize, let your opponent come to you, so to speak, and then be able to bend around what your opponent's doing and have a lot of agency into a lot of different decks, Wind is probably the best element for you. When it comes to water is very much defensive leaning. Water is not just trying to slow down what you're doing, but honestly kind of stop what you're doing. Some of good examples of this are Song of Frost. Song of Frost says you may banish a card with floating memory from your graveyard rather than pay this card's reserve cost if a unit is attacking in the combat phase. So it just doesn't resolve. And it's able to kind of like stop your opponent from attacking you just outright. Water also, for the floating memory thing, utilizes its memory very, very well. It has a lot of floating memory cards in it naturally, and what it wants to do is kind of have a slower start at the beginning and then move towards a kind of late game strategy. It is the control aspect of a Grand Archive. You have cards like Snow Fairy, which has stealth. On enter, rest target ally you don't control. That ally does not wake up during its controller's next wake up phase, as long as you can, or doesn't wake up during its controller's wake up phase as long as you control Snow Fairy. So you're able to just rest a target ally on the other side of the field, and it stays at rested until Snow Fairy goes away. Again, stopping what the opponent's trying to do. Then you have one of my favorite cards, Snow White, Weiss Queen. On enter, rest target champion. It does not wake up during its controller's next wake up phase. This can help slow the champion's leveling up, which is really powerful in this game. If a rested champion you don't control would level up into a champion card, return that card to its owner's material deck instead. So really, really powerful ability. Not only can you stop their allies from doing things, but you can stop their champion from doing things. Super, super powerful. You also have other stuff that helps just stop what the opponent's trying to do in terms of cold damage. Not so much preventing it, but like lowering their value as an offensive card. Korhazi Trapper does this really well by removing a preparation counter from it, and target units attacks get -3 attack until end of turn, which is really, really good. Cerulean Decree is a very common one. Allows you to choose one, but if it was imbued, which means showing 3 water cards as you're paying for it, choose 2 instead. It'll allow you to negate stuff. It'll allow you to minus their attack value and also draw a card into memory. So it kind of shows you like all the things that water does. Then you have cards like Dissuading Halt, which says target unit attacks get -3 attack until end of turn. It also has floating memory. So as you can see here, you're not really preventing the damage coming in. You're like outright hurting the value on the other side of the board, which also could lead to, whereas Wind might use like a Veiling Breeze to just prevent the damage, what you might end up doing is they're attacking into one of your units. You play one of these cards all of a sudden that card's attack goes way, way down. And so you don't prevent anything, but maybe you have a, maybe they have like a fire card, so to speak. Like I'll go forward here. Let's say they're attacking you with a card like Blazing Bowman or something for 2/1, and it doesn't have its buff, or it has its buff, so it's a 4/1, and they're attacking, and you end up blocking with like an interceptor or something that's like 1/3. It's coming in for 4/1, so normally you wouldn't be able to. It would trade out your attack, but if you can give it enough minus attack power and it doesn't, kill your ally, then all of a sudden you're not just preventing the damage hit taken, but you're like gaining advantage by slowing down their offensive power. Hopefully that makes sense. Another thing that water has is just like not so much spot removal, but spot interaction. Cards like Fracturize and Frostbind are like just like the staples of the class of not the class of the element. Being able to target an item or weapon becomes a Cleric Fractal Fantasia with reservable and loses all of her abilities, so you can affect your opponent's equipment. Frostbind allows you to negate things very easily. Freezing Hail allows you to damage rested units. Very, very like target spot interaction. So water has those control-y elements. And then the final thing, and this wouldn't be water if you didn't mention it. Water does have a very good mill strategy. The only kind of viable mill strategy is in water. Cards like Fractal of Rain, Primordial Ritual, and Tidestone Bovine allow you to just kind of enact your game plan while also milling your opponent's deck. It's not quite as like toxic as like a Magic mill where you can mill like half their deck or something crazy. It's usually like at most like 8 to 10 cards, and that's if you do something like insanely good and you like get all your synergies right. But typically water has these mill strategies with like Nico, CL, stuff like that, is what I'm seeing pop up to be able to enact the damage game plan while also milling your opponent. So that's kind of what water. So if you like control, if you like the ability to kind of not just like take what the opponent gives you and bend to it like Wind does, but just stop what your opponent's trying to do and play for that late game value, water is your go-to. And then finally we have fire. Fire is the aggro, the kind of more offensive leaning element. You have cards like Arthur, Red Hair, and Vermilion Decree, which are just like with the correct synergies are just overstated, very, very kind of offensive minded cards. It also has a lot of draw and discarding, so to speak. Cards like that's in the next one, but Hair has a little bit of draw and discard, and we'll get to that here in a second. But a lot of their cards don't have a lot of defense, but they do have a lot of offense, and they're just going to put the pressure on the opponent, ask that question, can you deal with this? And then the opponent has to be able to answer. They also have a lot of graveyard interaction. All the elements have this to some extent, but fire uses its graveyard to then empower its attacks. Cards like Blazing Bowman, Fiery Momentum, Rending Flames all care about like how many fire element cards you have in your grave to be able to buff the attack itself. So they really, really care about being able to, again, draw and discard a lot of things, fill up that graveyard with a lot of fire cards, and then use those for that incremental offensive value. On the other side of the coin, water does the same thing, but defensively. Water will discard and use a lot of floating memory in their graveyard to then gain defensive value and like incremental number value in that sense, whereas fire is all about the offense. How do you get cards in the graveyard? It has a lot of draw discard effects. Cards like Clumsy Apprentice, Creative Shock do really well for this. Heated Vengeance can take advantage of this draw, discard, and damage dealing effects to be able to get a lot of value as well. But cards like Clumsy Apprentice and Creative Shock are kind of like the go-to for fire. So when it comes to fire, if you like, offensive minded, you want to really like put the pressure on your opponent. You want to be doing a lot of drawing, a lot of discarding, a lot of like manipulation with the hand to then be able to come in with these big like fireball-esque like attacks. Fire is probably your best option. Hopefully this made sense. This is a very snapshot, quick guide on the elements. There is more in-depth guides out there. Main Deck did a really, really good series. There's like 3 1-hour-long podcasts with Taylor on like how to, approach each element and how each element plays. I just want to give you like, you're new to the game. I want a quick 15-minute snapshot of like why I should play each element. What does each element entail? Because before you regardless of what champion you want to play above me, you got to pick an element, right? And like, how do you want your champion to play? And the archetype will matter greatly depending on which element you pick. So definitely give them all a shot. Go on the TCG Architect website. You can look through all the cards, kind of get an idea. Obviously, there's class synergies to these cards, right? You have cards that care about have like certain class bonuses, like Priestess of Flame, right? Like it's just a normal one too, but if you're playing a cleric, it has an additional bonus. So you can see like what those bonuses entail, so to speak, and hopefully that helps you out a little bit to kind of make an informed decision on what you want to play. At the time of recording this, fire's kind of like the overall best element, followed by wind and water, but it's gone ebb and flow. There's been times when water's been the best. There's been times when wind's been the best. So they do a good job at balancing it and changing it up. Hopefully this made sense. So if you like this type of content, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. To my Grand Archive people, if I missed anything in the context of this quick snapshot style content, please let me know. I'd love to hear it. I tried to make this as informative as possible and help anybody out who's new to the game. But yeah, thank y'all so much for watching this. If you like this type of content, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. If not me, it's completely fine. Go to another creator in the creator worksheet. Go like their stuff. Let's get more people seeing this game. And I'll see y'all next time on TCG Talk. Thank y'all so much.